is what we call our Crescent City Connection. This is our twin span. Connects from Orleans Parish to Jefferson Parish, crossing the Mississippi River. Crescent City Connection. Right here to your left, where you see this construction down below, this is where they expanded the convention center. Right here to your left, where you see the construction right beside the Riverwalk, this is where they expanded the convention center. That was also where the 1984 World's Fair was located, right down below. All this convention center. And you have your Riverwalk right beside the river. The Riverwalk have over 120 stores inside. Over 120 shops. Riverwalk. Anybody ever been here for Mardi Gras, for Carnival? Anybody been in the city for Carnival? I'd like to point out down below to your left also, when you see Blaine Current Artists, that's where they build the Carnival floats at. This is what we call Jefferson Parish on this side of the river. Blaine Current Artists, that's about 4 to 5 blocks long. That's where they build Carnival floats at Mardi Gras. Part here, you can also see how flat we are here in Louisiana. Very flat. We also have to be left and to the right. Some of the above ground cemeteries you probably could just take a little glance at them. But anyway, we all know we bury above ground here. We are about 4 to 6 feet below sea level. Very flat here.
Down here on the bayou, in the swamp, in the marsh. So if there's anything that you want to know about this area we're going in, just feel free to ask me the question. Now this particular body of water that we're on here is the Intercoastal Canal. And the Central Coastal Canal is just like the interstate highway. It runs all the way through Louisiana and through Texas, through Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. It goes to the west, 677 miles to Brownsville, Texas. And then if you go towards the east, it goes 2,334 miles all the way to New York City. It's a long way. And just like the big tugboat you just seen come through with the big oil barges, that's what it's used for. In other words, to transport oil and cargo and grain, rice, all kind of stuff. Just like they transport on 18-wheelers, they transport it on there. It's got about 15 feet of water, average depth all the way through. You do have some heavy equipment that comes through here. And then of course also the water, the color that you see, that's the color of the river. The color of the land, I mean, that's why it's the water that color. And we have a lot of different types of fish also in this water. That's right, on the right here, there's a big lake. I'm going to show you the opening to it just in a little bit. They got a bayou that's called Bayou Village that goes right into the lake, and it runs from the north to the south into Bayou Maritaria. Then runs all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, 30 miles away. Now the big supply boats that you see tied up on the side here, they're like in a graveyard. The reason why they're here is because in the early 70s, the oil business took a big drop. And when it did, they had to tie up a lot of these boats because they used to supply the oil field out the Gulf. And they just tied these boats up because there's no use for them. And undoubtedly, they'll stay here forever because they just rot away. Unless that the oil field would happen to kick up again and they need these boats, they'll take them and redo them and put them back to work. So that's what I used to do. I used to run tugboats, and I retired from the tugboats in 1974. And I also fish and I trap and I hunt. Do it all. Good equipment that farm, all the motors and everything, there's a lot of stuff that could be salvaged also. I imagine they could use them for something, even if it's to block them, make a levee, a natural bayou that goes into the lake and it goes back down this way towards the south. This is a big lake. Now Lake Salvador used to be a cypress swamp. About 200 or 300 years ago, all the big cypress trees that was in this cypress swamp were cut down. And once they cut the trees down, when the wind freezes up like it is right now, it gets rough. And it dug the lake out. And it's about 15 miles long and about 12 miles wide, and it's got about 15 feet of water in it. It's pretty deep. We do have a lot of good stuff that comes out of the lake. We've got good shrimp, a lot of real good shrimp, a lot of crabs, and a lot of fish. We have catfish, which is a delicacy down here. You have a lot of flounder, a lot of redfish and speckled trout. Sheepheads. You have all kinds of different type of fish, and all good eating. And also the blue crab. You catch a lot of blue crab that comes out of the lake. And I normally have some blue crabs on the boat here, but I don't have any today because this big freeze that we just had a few days ago killed everything. Killed a lot of fish and a lot of crabs. This thing that I'm holding in my hand here is a crab trap or a crab pot. So you see a lot of corks on the water. And when you see these corks on the water, that's what it's for. It's to show the crab trap. So what we do with the crab trap, we open this little thing right here, this little door, and this is a bait trap. We put dead fish in this bait trap. Once you put this dead fish in here, you close the little trap door, and then you have a rope and a cork on the trap, and you set it down in the water just like this, and it goes all the way down to the bottom. and the crabs are crawling on the bottom. And what they'll do, they'll come for this bait that's inside this trap, and they'll go through this funnel. Once they go in this funnel and get inside the trap, they can't come back out. Then in the morning when the fisherman comes, he'll grab the cork and pick the trap up, and he'll turn it over and open it right here. Open it up and just take it out, and just dump it into a basket or dump it in the boat. And you normally have anywhere from 3 to 5 dozen crabs in one of these traps on a good day. And the blue crab is very good. We boil them and we pick the meat out of them, and then just eat the meat, or sometimes you can make stews with it, or anything, just about anything you want. You make patties. It's real good. There's a big demand for crab meat. We used to make our crab stones out of wood, but now today they make them out of stainless steel. And this thing is very helpful in assaulting the blue crab. But the blue crabs have some pretty strong fences on them, and if they bite you, they'll draw blood. And that's why these crab stones are very useful to us. We use them real good. And then I have the little rake right here. It's called a little rake. It's made just like a little rake. All you do, you rake up the shrimp and the crab, and you just separate them. But when you catch fish and crabs all together in the net, you have all kind of stuff in it, and you just want to take the shrimp out. It's like I have in the picture. All you do is bring it to you, and you separate it, and you just throw all the trash fish back over. Let it live. Along the intercoastal, you see a lot of grass like you see here, and a lot of different types of trees. All the way to Texas, you'll see willow trees, hackberry trees, oak trees, cypress trees. You see bloodweed, roseau grass. You see all kind of different grass and weeds and bushes and all. And it's like this all the way to Texas, except when you get into a little community where they have houses and all, then you see houses and boats and docks and all. And this particular area of the intercoastal is real straight, as you can see, because it was cut by man. And about 25 or 30 years ago, they had to dig this out. They cut all the big trees on the edges of the bank, and they dug it out, made it a little wide and a little deeper. And we call this area here Stump Alley. And the reason why we call it Stump Alley is because both sides of it is that big stump. If you go real close, you'll run into them. So that's why you got to stick on off of the banks a little bit. And also on these banks, you see a lot of different animals, which, like I said about this cold weather we just had, it's hard to see some of the animals. There's a lot of them froze. But our biggest animal we have down here is the alligator and the white-tailed deer. That's the biggest thing that we have in the wild. But we're going to travel just about a half a mile here, and then we'll cut into here, into this place right here. This is called Treasure Island. And we'll go into Treasure Island and show you some pretty nice scenery. Sir? Whenever in that lives in the community, they'll fish a lot of catfish in here. There's a lot of good, nice catfish that's caught in this intercoastal. Because it's pretty deep, you know, they stay in here. You get... Yeah. But 13 feet of water. Shrimp season is closed. In the mid-season, we call it the mid-season because on bed of 15, we have the brown shrimp season that's going to open. And we fish for 50 days of the brown shrimp season. It opens up around bed of 15, and then it closes up around July the 1st to July the 5th. And it'll stay closed until August the 15th. Then when it opens up again, it'll open up for the white shrimp. And then the white shrimp season normally runs from August the 15th all the way till Christmas time. And we catch a lot of shrimp. Of course, over the years, we've been losing a lot of marshland, so we're losing a lot of shrimp. We lose about 60 miles of coastline every year due to the hurricanes and bad weather and erosion. So it's pretty bad. Myself, I used to work on shrimp boats. In fact, I still have shrimp boats, but I used to work on them when I was a young kid. I was only 9 years old when I started working on a shrimp boat. spent three of the worst hurricanes that we had in Louisiana. I spent them on the boat. I stayed on the boat for Hurricane Audrey in 1957. And then in 1965, for Hurricane Betsy, I was in the Mississippi River on the third boat. In 1969, I was on the third boat in the Mississippi River again for Hurricane Camille. All bad hurricanes. Now, if y'all been in New Orleans, at Jackson Square, right there where the Jackson Brewer's at, I had one of these big oil barges, just like that big tug is shoving up over there. And it was loaded with 27,500 barrels of oil. And after the hurricane was over, my barge was up on the rocks right in front of Jackson Square. That's how high the water came that night at 12:30 at night. We had about a 15 to 18 foot tidal wave that came in. And it turned over a lot of big boats and even some small ships, it turned them over. It was pretty bad. But it was not as cold as what we just had. 85 was the cold, 58 was the coldest one. It stayed frozen for about 9 days. This last one that we just had stayed for about 5 days. Frozen over solid, on the top. And then you had about 3 or 4 inches of ice on the top of this container coastal. And then when you went into the marsh and into the swamp, everything was frozen. All the animals. I had some people that was out there hunting, and they told me that they saw deer, white-tailed deer, and they wouldn't even move. They were so frozen up, they wouldn't even shoot them. They just let them go. It was horrible. And we lost a lot of fish. We had tons and tons and tons of fish all over the water that's dead from this freeze. And we're going to go up in here, and I'm going to bring it in the marsh and in the swamp and show you the sceneries in there. I see, like on the point right here, you have a lot of oak trees. The one with the green leaves, those are the oak trees. And then you also have some little cereal bushes in there. We call them cereal bushes. It's a little tree with green leaves on it. It's the only one that stays green through the winter, just like the oak tree does. Because all the willow trees, the hackberry trees, and the cypress trees, and every other type of tree, as far as that goes, the maple trees and all, they lose their leaves. But the oak tree and the cereal bush stays green. And when you see them, sometimes they stay land and sometimes they fly away. There's a lot of good fishing in here, and also we have a lot of people that go after the fur-bearing animals, in other words, like the utrum, the otter, coons, rabbits, just about any one of the fur-bearing animals that are good to sell, to harvest, they'll trap them. And the utrum is the one that they go after the most right now because the government wants to try to get rid of because there's so many of them. Utrum. It's a big rat that looks like a beaver, and he's got a tail like a rat, and he eats nothing but roots and grass. And what he'll do, if he gets in a cornfield or rice field, cane field or whatever, they destroy everything. They eat up everything that they can get their teeth on. And they're pretty big. They'll get up to be about 35 pounds. I'll get to show you some further back, or sometimes around here you can see them. But the ice really throws them up pretty good, so it's hard on them. We do have a lot of otters also, but the otters and the minks are not worth anything anymore in the wild because they have a lot of farms that farm the minks and everything, so there's no demand for it. And then we don't have any more muskrats. The muskrats are gone. We're losing a lot of marshland, so the muskrats are just about gone. Well, because we lose the particular type of marsh that it takes for the muskrats to breed in is all gone. And there's a baby blue heron that just got up at beside the bank over there. He's on that log. That's a baby blue heron. He'll be getting up again. Later on, you'll get to see a big one. A great big one, an adult, has about a 7-foot wing spread on it.
No.
There you go, that's the big one.
That's the big one.
Now that other little bitty bird that you seen flying, he's a little gray bird, but he's got a white band around his neck. It's called a belted kingfisher. He's a little bitty bird, and what he does, he'll land on them branches and he'll look down on the water, and then every once in a while you'll see him hit the water, and what he's doing, he's catching a little bitty fish. That's why he's called a kingfisher. Right now. Somebody put up an alligator line or something. An alligator line and somebody just shot at it. But that's a big difference. Look at that big dude. See him right here? Look here on the right. That's the man named Bass. Oh yeah, he's gone. He's gone tomorrow. Well, it looks like a beaver. Is what he looks like. Now when this big bird takes off, watch the wing spread on him, how big he is. Ain't that pretty? A real nice cypress tree. They're all young cypress trees that are about 35, 40 years old. It takes a long, long time for a cypress tree to get big enough to be harvested into lumber. Just like the seats that you're sitting on. Those are all logs that I got out of the bottom of the bayou about 2 years ago. And brought them to the sawmill and had them cut, and then sand them down and made these benches out of them. And that's what the cypress lumber does. It's real pretty lumber. And you get different types of grain in it and all that. You know, it's real nice. It does a beautiful job on everything. Most of this stuff right here is probably a couple of 100 years old. And then I have a table right under here that's about 300 years old, and I have a piece at my house that I made a table with that's about 500 years old. But the cypress lumber lasts for a million years. In other words, as long as you keep it underwater, or as long as you protect it like I have it here on the top. Now in this area, we normally see a lot of birds and a lot of wild animals. Sometimes you may get to see a white-tailed deer because we have a lot of them in here. And it's a good area for them. They'll come up on these levees and hide from the wind and from the high water and from the cold weather. They also get into that real thick vegetation when it gets real cold. Now yesterday we saw 3 or 4 turtles, and I was surprised to see turtles at this time of the year.
May go through.
talking about move alligators.
I doubt if they'll eat it right now. I doubt if you take anything with them. I know they feed them marshmallows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I doubt if you take anything at all.
Why?
What they do with them, they hunt them and they make fur coats and they use the meat. A lot of people eat it. It's good eating. If you kill one when it's fresh and clean him up the right way, it's good eating. There's nothing wrong with the meat. But it's used mostly to feed the alligator with. Because we have a lot of alligator farms in Louisiana. And that's what they use it for. They use the nutria and the rabbits to feed the alligators. And talking about the alligator, in 1964, the federal government took over the alligator in Louisiana and named it an endangered species because they hardly had anymore. Now there's a snake. Look here. Little water moccasins. You see all kind of stuff after this cold weather. There's another one.
There's something running.
There's two of them. You do? Oh, you seen something running?
Not even what you're talking about.
Look, there's two snakes. There's one on this log and there's one on that moss up there. We have a lot of snakes.
See?
Unbelievable, all the stuff that you see out here. But still in all, when they took over the alligator in 1964, I had 576 of them in captivity. You know, I had them, I caught them myself alive. And I had them in a pen, and I'd feed them and sell them and play with them and do whatever I wanted with them. And then when they closed the season on them, what I had to do is sell them back to the state. And they took them and they replanted them back in the marshes and in the swamps. And they left that season closed for 20 years. And when they did open the season again, the only people that could mess with alligators is people that owns a lot of land. And when I talk about a lot of land, I'm talking about 300, maybe 500 acres on up. Because you can only get one alligator on 10 acres of land. Say if you have 100 acres of land, you can get 10 alligators, providing that they have enough alligators to harvest. And the state will take the land that you want to harvest, they'll check it out, and if there's enough alligators on it to harvest, they'll sell you a permit. And then the day that the season opens, which is September the 1st until September the 30th, you got 30 days of fishing the alligators. And if there's enough alligators on the land, they'll issue your permits and your tags, but the tags are not issued until the day the season opens. And the tag is this thing right here. Every alligator has to have a tag. This is a tag. And the reason they do this is that they don't want anybody messing around with alligators before time or out of season, or if you have land, in other words, I can't mess with yours and you can't mess with mine. They really, it's close monitored. And then also the day that you get your tags in the mail, you get a skinning method of how to skin the alligator. And nobody has the same method. You have to have an expert skinner to skin your alligators. If you have just an amateur that'll skin your alligators and they mess it up, for instance, they'll tell you to take the alligator and split it down the back, which is called hornback. You got to split it all the way down the back and open it up, all the legs and everything. And they might tell you to leave the whole right front leg attached to that skin. You know, this one man, they'll tell him that. Then they'll tell the other guy to leave the left front leg or the back hind leg or whatever, you know, the back leg attached to it. Or they'll tell them to make some certain kind of cut on the skin. And if they don't do that, if it's not done the proper way, they're not gonna take the skin.
That's that way of keeping track of who's harvesting
That's right, exactly. This is the way. This is the way that the cypress tree grows back. Those seeds. See, all these seeds will fall down in the moss. I don't know if these branches are going to slap us in the face here. These seeds will fall down on the ground and on the water, and they'll float into the marsh and into the swamps. And then when they'll plant themselves back in the ground, they'll start growing. And what they'll do, they'll make a little cypress tree like this thing right here. Like a cypress tree. And when this thing gets to be about 4 or 5 feet tall, it'll start sprouting branches, and then it'll become a cypress tree. Just like the one, see like the one right here, that's a little bit of cypress right here. You know, it takes about 8 or 10 years for one to get that size, just like this one right here. Just that little bit of one. It takes a long time. We're getting back on the alligator. The alligators right now, like I said, I'm surprised to see this alligator without. But most of the big alligators are hibernating right now. They're gonna hibernate until March. And when they're gonna come out of hibernation in March, the big alligators will come into a body of water like this right here. And it's kind of deep and they want to clean themselves off. And what they'll do when it gets time for mating season, they'll start bellowing and hollering. And any females that they have around here will come mate with this one male. That's pretty good, you know, for the female to come to the male. You know, the male don't have to chase the females. But they'll come mate with this male, and then they'll go back into the marsh or the swamp, and where their nesting grounds are at, they'll build a nice big nest from underwater. They'll go from underwater, they come up, and they build a nest, they build a mound. And it's nothing but grass, mud, and straw. They'll build this nest, and they'll lay a cluster of eggs, anywhere from 60 to 100. All depending on what the female's diet has been. If she's been eating pretty good, she's going to lay some nice big eggs, and a lot of them. If she had a poor diet, she'll probably lay, you know, a small cluster of eggs. And in 90 days, after the female and the male has mated together, the female lays them eggs, she's going to have a bunch of little babies. They're all going to start yapping in the nest, and when they do, she'll take the nest and scratch it. Just tear it all apart, and all the babies come out. And all these babies, you're going to have about maybe 5% of that hatchery that's going to live, that's going to survive. Because the other alligators eat them, the fish eat them, the coons eat them, the birds eat them. There's hardly no survival rate at all in the wild for alligators. And on the farm, they got a 99% survival rate. It's a big difference. Just like in the wild, the female will stay with the babies until they're about 3 feet long, or 3 years, something like that. Because they grow about 10 inches, maybe a foot a year, something like that. All depending on what they eat and where they're at. And also, on the farm, they noticed that by incubating the alligator eggs at 89 degrees, they produce all male alligators. And if they drop the temperature down around 84, 85 degrees, they have all females. And then if they pick it up to about 86 or 87 degrees, they're going to have half of them would be male and half could be females. And then another thing, you know, the sex of an alligator, like for an alligator to reproduce sexually, he's got to be about 7 or 8 foot long, which would give him about 9 to 10 years old in the wild. And the only way you can tell the sex of an alligator is in the lab or like at night. At night when you put a light on them, the eyes are red. And if they move a little bit and they show a green tint, it's a female. And if they show a clear looking tint like a coon's eye, it's a male. And then my way of telling, from messing with the alligators over the years, in other words, the males are always long and slender and the females are short and fat. Not to offend anybody, but that's the way I, you know, that's the way I could tell, you know, the females from the males. And also they discovered a couple of years ago, they found some white alligators in Louisiana, in southwest Louisiana. I think it's either 7 or 8 or 9, somewhere in that neighborhood now that they found. And they're white alligators. They're the only ones that's ever been recorded. And they have blue eyes. Very, very unusual. Blue-eyed alligators. I tell everybody it must be an occasion that did that. Blue-eyed alligators, you know. But the alligator meat is good eating. It's high in protein. It's low in fat. The meat that's in the tail is white, just like fish. And it's very good to make sauce pecans with, you know, which is a tomato gravy with a lot of seasoning in it. And we barbecue, we fry it. You can do a lot of stuff with the alligator meat. It's very good for you. No cholesterol. That's one thing good about it. And like this year, the alligator meat went for about $5 a pound, and the hides went for around $58 a foot. So they do pretty good with them. When I was selling them, I was only getting $3. So that's a big difference, you know. About 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But I'm glad I got this for y'all to see this one. But I got 2 of them right here that I carry with me all the time.
Little minnows down. All kinds of little minnows in the water.
This is Puput, these are my babies.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
These guys here, either 2 brothers or 2 sisters, I don't know what they are, or a brother and a sister, whatever. They come from the same mama, same dad. How old are they? They're about 16 months old, and when I got them, they were just about, I guess, about that long, about 5, maybe 6 inches long when I got them. And they're growing pretty good because I feed them. They don't hibernate, and I feed them all the time. And they're good little guys, and you know if they grow to be big enough, in other words, you can tame them, you can play with them, and no problem. You wanna hold one? Wanna hold it? It ain't gonna do you nothing. Wanna hold it?
Here, let me just touch it.
Okay, touch it. Feel the skin. Hold him right here. Like that. That's it. He won't bite you. You don't have to hold him too hard. No, he won't bite you. See what I do with him though is, I'm gonna show you. They're just like a hog. They're just like a human being because you can take them and put them to sleep.
Oh yeah. So 16 months old.
Yeah, they're about 16 months old.
And how long do you keep them?
I'm gonna keep them till they get to be about, I guess, 2 or 3 feet long, and then I'll with them if they try to kill them. Because I wish they would really quit killing them, for hide and everything else.
I understand in Florida they multiplied so well that they really.
Well, down here
There's-
too. Down here this year alone, they probably got 25,000 gators out of here, out of the swamps and the marshes. That's what they harvest. And I don't like it because they have so many pretty ones. And we had some beautiful alligators back here that we were feeding, to show you people. Awesome. This thing here, I mean, he's something. He teased me and make fun of me because of the way I speak and everything, and it made it hard on me. I used to wear some clothes that my mother made for me. On the rice, they'll come in here, they'll eat up on them little red balls. They like it. Now, we do a lot of rabbit hunting here. All these they have like little ditches up in there. That's where they used to float the cypress logs. When they used to cut the big old trees down, they couldn't just drag them on the ground, so what they'd do, they'd float them through these little canals that they'd make in the marsh and in the swamp. And then when we get back in the marsh and the swamp, I'll have to use a walking stick, just like the one that I have here on the table. This is like, we make our walking stick, you find a good branch with a good fork in it, and then when you put it down, it won't bury down in the mud and in the mud and grass, and you can probe ahead of you so that you can make sure that you're walking on a good hard surface, because you could walk through this marsh and it'd be hard for a long way, and then first thing you know, you're walking, you're going down, you go straight down, and it's nasty, it's cold, and it's wet. I mean, it's very uncomfortable after you get all wet up in here.
Heavily quicksand.
No quicksand. It's just, real soft bottom. You can go sometimes, they got holes that are 25, 30 feet deep, and you fall in this stuff and it's yucky, Just don't care for it. And then, this is a double spring Victor trap. This is what we use to trap the nutria with. And this trap here, it'll hold a pretty good sized rat. Pretty good sized nutria. This is the way we set it. And then you can also set it, heavy, or you can set it light. You can set it the way it's got, like if you want to catch a rabbit, if you know a rabbit's fastened, this position won't hurt it so bad. It won't break the bones. This position, it'll snap real fast. And then you can take this strap and you can nail it to a tree or a branch if you know that there's one around. If not, we use this branch, this walking stick, to do the same thing. Run it through and just shove it in the mud or in the grass, and it'll hold as big a rat as we have back in here. And then all you have to do is find a track where the nutria or the rat that you want to catch is passing, in the swamp and in the marsh, and you set the trap, and then you put the trap where he's passing, and his leg gets in it. That's it. Then when you run the trap, you got to take it and you got to kill the animal before you try to get it out of the trap, because they bite you. They'll lease it to certain people to hunt, fish, or trap, or whatever they want to do with it. But once somebody gets a lease on the land, they hardly ever let it go. See, this is where they'll tie the barge up, and then they're taking the hook up to this hose right here, and they'll pump all this oil out of these tanks. have the heaters. Those big outfits over there are heaters. In other words, a lot of times that all come out of the ground, and before it gets here, it's real hot when it comes out of the ground, but then by the time it gets to the tank battery, a lot of times it cools off, like in this kind of weather. And what they'll have to do, they have to run it through these heaters so that they can melt that wax, that paraffin that's in that oil, and separate it. But if ever they want to do this well over, all they got to do is bring a barge in here again. They'll rework it, and they'll get it to start flowing again, and they can flow, start flowing back into the tanks. But then further back, there's one that's flowing, the one with the yellow lines on. That one's flowing oil. Here comes Terry. Because when the water gets high, about 4 years ago we had a hurricane down here, Hurricane Juan, that brought in like about maybe 5-6 feet of water over this bank right here. So like most of these houses that was on the bayou had water in them. A lot of houses was underwater. Houses are in the low-lying areas. And then right directly in the back of that big oak tree is the old Barataria trading post. That's the one with the little red roof on it. That place is about 250 years old, but the only thing, they put a new roof on it about 40 or 50 years ago, out of sheet metal, out of tin. And they have electricity and trappers and hunters. The other 10% is people that come from the city. They'll come on the bayou, and buy some property, and they'll move because they got a lot of money, some of them from the city. But they still work in the city, or they own businesses in the city. Then if y'all want to take a picture of it, right up ahead is the plantation. I'm going to tell you about it later on, but the big stag that you see up there and the trees used to be a sugar mill. And the sugar mill burned down, but then today the old slave house is still there. That White House, that's a slave house. That's where the slaves used to live at that was working on the plantation. Now this is where Bayou Village goes into Bayou Barataria. Now Bayou Barataria is where Gene Lafitte and his Baratarians used to come at when he was living on Grand Terre Island at Grand Isle. And he came through here and lived through here, did a lot of business through here, and that's why they named this place Lafitte. Now one more thing that's funny about this place, the bayou itself is called Barataria Waterway. And then the right-hand side of this bayou going down is called Barataria. The left-hand side of the bayou is called Lafitte. And there's a little controversy about that because the word Barataria means poor or cheap and trashy. And if these people from on the bayou, anytime that anybody from the bayou goes to town and somebody asks you where you've been, or where you're from, and you say you're from Lafitte or Barataria, they look at you kind of funny like you don't belong there. And there's a little controversy about even the people that lives on the bayou, because the people of Lafitte sometimes have fights with the people from Barataria on account of that. But throughout this community, for the next about 8-10 miles, in other words, on both sides of the bayou, this is all you see is houses and boats and docks and piers and all for the people that live here. And you can imagine what it's like when one of these bad hurricanes come in. You get sometimes 4 to 8 feet of rising water, a lot of wind, and the majority of the people will not leave. The authorities always want the people to leave, but most of the people stay right here and take care of what they got. And a lot of this stuff has been wiped out, a lot of it stays. Now you see some of the smaller boats that you see here on the right, it's called the little Lafitte skiff. Now we use the Lafitte skiff to go out into the swimming grounds in the morning and come back in the evening. That's every day. And then pull one up, bro. Pull one up. Yeah, you got down. Time ago, but all these houses have been here for years and years, except at you times, like on the other side, you have a lot of people that come from the city. They'll buy a piece of property and they'll build a house on the side of the bayou, and they're still working on their jobs in the city. They'll ride around in their boats on the bayou like we do, but most of them still work in the city. Yes, well, weekends we have a lot of them. And then up ahead, that drawbridge that we have here, that's the only way that you can get from one side of the bayou to the other, unless that you travel by boat. That's the only way. All the rest of this, as you go down, in other words, this is nothing but 2 islands. And the further you go down, the closer to the Gulf you get, and the more open water you get into. Town. We have to drive 18 miles back to town to go to the hospital. We do have one doctor on the bayou. They run uptown. But a lot of these women, you can't get them on this bayou. Watch that big Indian mound that they have right in the middle of it. Now, about 4 years ago, I was pulling graves back and putting them back in this graveyard when we had that high water. All these graves, you know, these coffins were floating all over, and we had to take them and bring them back. That's a good place to put them in right there. Bury them. See all this? They're putting all this riprap, all this old cement, and all they put it there to try to protect the graveyard. Because they have a lot of boat traffic through here, and what it's doing is eroding a lot of, you know, the soil and everything. So they had to put all them rocks there. But it's interesting, you know. I'd like to see. Get enough shots on? You want me to turn it around? No, that's good.
Get out, and the people that worked with us at the embassy were very panicky because they had to be evacuated from their homes to even take care of us.
This is what the Americans are fleeing: sharp fighting between Salvadoran government forces and Marxist-led rebels. The latest skirmishes occurred in affluent neighborhoods north of San Salvador, where many of the Americans lived. For those who kissed their loved ones goodbye, those Americans who remain here, there is an apparent escalation in the war. Western military analysts say that for the first time, rebels fired unsuccessfully a surface-to-air missile at a government warplane. Rebels are also vowing to launch yet another phase of what they call their overall final offensive. The military analysts say the guerrillas have enough arms and ammunition stockpiled to carry on the fight for some time to come. Ed Rabel, NBC News, San Salvador.
And in Europe, the East German parliament today voted to change the constitution and end the Communist Party's monopoly on power. The vote was overwhelming, and the change was one of the major demands of the reform movement. It's news at 7 minutes after the hour. Jane?
How do you decide what to lead with on a day such as this? Yeah, right.
Good a way as any.
The most important, however, is what to wear today, which means what's the weather going to be, and of course, the lead story is Willard Scott in Washington.
And I'm home, Annie M, home. I'm gonna click my heels. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. I wanna go back to Oz. I wanna see Toto and Aunt Emma. Anyway, the Women's Club of Boston, how sweet it is. Beacon Hill takes place today and tomorrow. It's a Christmas gift bazaar and benefits the lunch place, the Women's Lunch Place. It is a shelter for homeless women. That's more and more good things happening all over, and that's one of the best. What a town, every day better and better. Boston is so pretty. What a nice place to live. How about a couple of birthdays, Uncle Willard? We got them. Beautiful. Della Jameson of Old Corydon, Indiana is 100 years old today. She's crazy about Sparky Anderson. I mean, she loves Sparky on TV, and she likes American history. I bet she likes my friend Johnny Appleseed. Patchogue, New York, East Patchogue to be exact, is a home of Kate Stephanie, and she is 100 years old today. And we wish that pretty lady with a happy smile happy birthday. Well, it's cold in the Northeast. These are wind chills. Augusta, Maine, 30 below. Mount Washington, 101. That's nice. That's brisk. Move along smartly. Your dog will go in a hurry there. We're walking about. Whoop, bing, he's back in the house again. Never knew what happened. Rain today down in, with their wind chill, they're dramatic. Rain down in Texas and some snow in the Sangre de Cristos of New Mexico. Some showers continuing in extreme South Florida and cloudy skies. Tell you what, they got Karen developed into a tropical storm. Winds are points are 45 miles an hour, way south of Havana, Cuba, and seems to be stationary. It's a big storm system. There is some snow in the mountains of New England. You know, had almost 12 inches up there in the last 2 days. Look out for possibly a big storm moving into the Northeast and the Ohio Valley tomorrow and tomorrow evening, and colder Sunday in the east. Here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
We have Tropical Storm Karen moving southward, but we also have a lot of high, thin cirrus clouds that are going to be streaming over us. We'll see still a good bit of sunshine, though, the high near 72.
Our pick city of the day happens to be Tampa, Florida, 76 degrees. Brian Gumbel is standing back in Malta. I've never thrown it to the Isle of Malta. Do they cows give Malta milk out there? What's the story, Brian?
Willard, I thought it was going to be your pick city of the day, Valletta, Malta. Actually, it's about 50s here. It shouldn't be your pick city. A little bit overcast, a little bit rainy, but big doings nonetheless. We'll come back and get European perspective on those doings after a break. This is Today on NBC.
There's a very special lifestyle associated with Florida living. Warm, sunny days filled with boating, fishing, and swimming. All this and more awaits you right here in the heart of Florida. As a property owner at Interlochen Lakes Estates, you'll gain access to 13 beautiful lakes, where catch of the day may be bass, brim, or catfish. These 75 by 125-foot lots are perfect for a family desiring a fun-filled weekend getaway, a favorite vacation spot, or for active retirees who want to enjoy this special lifestyle. All this can be yours with prices starting at just $1,995 with 5% down, payments of only $30 per month with no qualifying. Interlochen Lakes Estates is just 32 miles from Gainesville. Jacksonville and Daytona are less than 75 miles away. For more information, call 1-800-523-0683. For as little as 5% down, you can enjoy this special part of Florida whenever you choose.
Toyota's Bargain Blowout. Only through December 4th, get your dealer's final clearance price. Plus, you can save $1,000 with factory dealer incentives on all new 1989 Camrys. Get your dealer's final clearance price. Plus, there's $800 incentives on new 1989 trucks like this. You can still get $600 incentives on any new 1989 Corolla. Also, see the exciting new 1990 Celica, the car that blows them all away. Toyota's Bargain Blowout at dealers through December 4th only.
Attend the Central Florida Cruise Show featuring the world's best cruise lines. Discover how affordable your dream vacation can be. The 4th Annual Central Florida Cruise Vacation Show, Sunday, December 3rd at Orlando's Omni Hotel.
She's turning back the hands of time.
We've got to do something.
And a love affair becomes a family affair.
And I've got just 2 words to say to you. Grab her.
Katharine Hepburn stars with Harold Gould. You'll laugh and cry when Mrs. Delafield wants to marry.
Join us Friday night at 8 when you turn to 2.
As we come back to Valletta, Malta, we have moved to the briefing room here at the conference center, which is serving as the press center during the upcoming summit. And after 8 this morning, we want to talk about foreign perspectives. As is always the case with summits of this kind, an army of reporters descends upon the summit locale. This morning, we've invited 3 members of that army to join us. Jürgen Kohr is the Washington correspondent for West Germany's Stuttgarter Zeitung newspaper.